All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to join the Sustainable Economy Task Force meeting. Good morning to our task force members. Thank you. I'm just letting some other folks in the room and we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, happy new year. I don't think we've had a meeting yet this year, so happy 2024, even though it's February. And I will call this meeting to order at 9:33 a.m. I am gonna share our agenda on the screen. And then we'll get started with the roll call. See if this kept. Perfect, okay. So starting off with roll call, Patricia Trujillo with Higher Education Department.
I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. Secretary Doucette.
Here.
Morning.
Morning.
Izzy Gutierrez.
Present.
Shawnee Harvey, that's me, I'm here. Leo Delgado.
Present.
Perfect, good morning. Anna Linden, I saw you.
Present.
Sydney, or the Deputy Secretary Linman.
Hi.
Morning. Steve Vierik, are you here? Or anyone from State Land Office present on the call today? Okay,
I believe they had a last minute conflict.
problem. Raquel Gomez with DWS.
Here.
Great. Lucinda Sidow or Tax and Revenue Department. James Poviwa. He may just be joking on. Michael Chacon with Indian Affairs Department.
Eno Moss.
Good morning. And
Chair Harvey, apologies, I couldn't get off mute. This is James Poviwa, present.
great, thank you. And Charlie. With State Investment Council. Good morning. Nice to see you. Okay. So we do have a quorum established. Thank you all, everyone. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda?
So move, Robert Doucette.
You, is there a second?
I'll second it with a comment. I believe this agenda needs to be adjusted to reflect the actual date, which is no longer November 15th, 2023.
Would be accurate. Thank you so much. I will make sure that we make that adjustment on the agenda. Yes, please ignore that. What I'll do, just move this down. And now it's today's agenda. Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion on the agenda? Okay, and all in favor of approving this agenda, if you can either raise your real hand, virtual hand, or say aye. Thank you. Any opposed? And that does pass. Thank you, everyone. So the next, we'll move to item 3, which is to approve our minutes from the October 18th meeting. And I'll go ahead. I don't know if everyone's had the opportunity to see these minutes. Here's our draft. And honestly, it's been so long that I don't know what we met on for this one. This is our meeting that was at, I think this was a general meeting. Okay. All right, so on approving the minutes from our October 18th, 2023 meeting, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Who moved and who seconded? Sorry.
I moved it as
Yeah.
far as,
Oh, sorry, Robert Doucette, second.
My screen disappeared for me, so I can't actually see. Okay, and is there any discussion on approving these draft minutes as shown above? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, if you please raise your hand, virtual hand, or say aye. Thank you so much.
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Seeing none, that does pass unanimously. Thank you all for that. We will move on back over to the agenda to our item 4. And what I'd like to do is welcome our chair of the Sustainable Economy Advisory Council, James Poviwa, with support from Michael Guerrero with Center for Civic Policy to go over the letter of support or kind of legislative priorities that the advisory council did vote on to support during the session, as well as kind of carry in that the expectations and desires laid out in to the task force here, as well as throughout this year. So with that, I will switch over here to the letter and I'll hand it off to James Michael.
Chair Harvey, apologies all I'm not on camera today. I'm dealing with a little bit of a cold, but it's good to see everyone. I hope you all are recovering from the legislative session if you were if your work took you there. In early January, the Sustainable Economy Advisory Council realized that there were quite a few of initiatives that were being presented within the legislature that have a direct connection or lateral connection to the work of encouraging a sustainable economy and just transition in the state. So council members came together and wrote this statement, which I am sure we can provide to the task force members via email after this meeting. A lot of this, and I'll go kind of high level, was just observations around the opportunities that are available right now through the Inflation Reduction Act, other IJA, other federal dollars that are significant, but also I would say present both an opportunity and a challenge to our state agencies to ensure that we don't leave money on the table. So here we outline some of the needs and challenges. If you go down to challenges under labor, workforce strategies, and barriers to training and education. We outlined some of what those are, including that uh, some programs in DWS, for instance, are not reaching all members of New Mexico communities due to restraints on the way federal dollars are spent versus state dollars. We also suggest the Opportunity Scholarship Fund, or outline some of the barriers within the Opportunity Scholarship Fund and within WIOA. So if we go down to recommendations, we also pointed towards some of the legislation that was being presented in the legislature. From that, one of the programs that, or excuse me, the bills that we supported was creating the match fund, which I know the governor had originally suggested $100 million for the match fund. And I believe the legislature approve 75 million. And so as you all know, the match fund is really important as it will help the state leverage additional resources from federal dollars. We're very hopeful that the governor will sign that into law. There were also another program that was championed by Somos Un Pueblo Unido, which creates wraparound supports for community members to take advantage of programs in WIOA and other training. Michael, that's just sort of the things I picked out of here. Again, I apologize, struggling with a cold here. Do you have additional things you want to add?
Just maybe a couple of things, James, and thanks for that. So the flexible funding, I see Somos is on today for the WIOA matching funds. That didn't go through, but HB 303, as you mentioned, for the pilot program for supplemental income for workers that are going through adult education programs, that did go through. And yes, you're right, 75 million was approved by the legislature for the New Mexico Match Fund. So yeah, so overall, a number of these really key initiatives did get through the legislature.
Well, the other thing I'll add is that we intended this document to help us be kind of initial stab at what we hope to be focusing on this year. With the support of Michael and Kayla, we are planning out a robust schedule for the SEEK to meet in communities across the state, which we look forward to sharing with you all. But we hope to be in, as many communities as we can be and build a program around each one of those meetings. Michael and Kayla are also pulling out portions of the state plan that are pertinent either by subject or region for each one of those meetings, so that the council can make comments and review those portions of the plan at these meetings, along with having strong community engagement on those issues. Kayla, would you add anything? Open it up to you if you have anything to add as well.
Well, I think that's a great summary, and all that I would say is that if any of the items in this statement or what we're discussing raise relevant updates from the session from various agencies and their respective designees, then we can make sure that we have time to touch on those during this meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll also add, sorry, I thought I was done, but there were quite a few SEEK members who either through their own roles or as members of SEEK were participating in the legislature as advocates, and did point to this statement, usually during public testimony. Last thing I'll add is, I am so happy that many state agencies are now receiving a lot of federal dollars or state dollars, and will uplift that. I think the intent of the task force was for this to be an arena for folks to be able to do cross collaboration among agency departments. I'm so happy that we have more robust full-time staff with Kayla, and then also a contract with EDD and CCP for Michael's time. And I'm very hopeful that this year, SEEK and Set Force will really be able to do the work that was designated in statute that created these two bodies.
Thank you, James. I appreciate that. And we appreciate that as a body. So, let me see what I'm doing here.
Chair Harvey, having a little hard time hearing you.
Oh, okay. Am I coming through? Let's see, I will, sometimes I have to prop open my computer a little bit so that people can hear me. Hopefully I won't lose the screen. Thank you for that, James, and thank you, Michael. Thank you, Kayla. I'm gonna switch back over to our agenda over here. And that actually brings us to item 5. So before I open it up entirely for public comment, I just wanted to let the task force know, and I'll also let the advisory council know when we have their meeting. Kayla has been kind of coming up with an overarching plan for the kind of just transition initiatives within the Jedi office and what this work is really going to look like in her role, and kind of building out some planning. We're going to be doing kind of a big planning meeting for the advisory council for their meeting to kind of schedule out meetings over the fiscal year and the entire year of 2024 to kind of help steer that direction and incorporate the state plan updates and community engagement. So we'll be working on that and should have some announcements next month in terms of that. And also, as this kind of time moves forward, Kayla will also step into the role of chair for the Sustainable Economy Task Force, and we are almost just waiting for that. I don't know if we're waiting for a formal cabinet appointment within EDD or if we're waiting for our acting secretary to move on that, but because she works so closely with both these groups and really has the expertise and knowledge to really move this work forward, and that's her background and where her training is, we're going to start to move that transition over as well. So I may not be with you all too much longer, but I'm with you for the time being. And then before I call on James and Anna Linden, I also wanted to open it up to the advisory council members. If there is any relevant legislative updates that you would like to share with this group, so we can know where your agencies are sitting with this work, or if there's any legislation that passed that was related to the work that these groups are both doing, we would love to hear from you as well in this section, even though it's not included formally on our agenda. We kind of will build that into public comment. So James and then Anna Linden.
Thanks, Chair Harvey, appreciate it. No, that's exactly what I was gonna ask, is reflections from task force members on legislative accomplishments or things that need to be continued to work on.
And Anna Linden, you have the floor.
I can do that. In addition to what I wanted to briefly mention was, as you sort of build out that agenda of SEEK meetings across the state, James, if you have synergies with MNERD work or clean energy work in some of them and you want us there, let me know. We would love to support that and continue to build relationships with communities that way. In terms of a quick legislative update, none of this, of course, has been signed yet, but we're excited here at MNERD about a lot of clean energy tax credits, which should hopefully bring more, both more jobs and more opportunities to have access to the energy transition to everybody, including a clean cars tax credit, which probably I'll leave for Sydney, Deputy Secretary Linneman, to talk about in environment, but also a wider opportunity for rooftop solar tax credits, including raising the cap on that so everybody can get a chance at it, and also making sure that tribal members who hold leaseholds on tribal land can qualify, which was an accidental omission in the original bill that we discovered and were really happy to get fixed, because that was never meant to be a disqualification. In terms of stuff that didn't go through, we didn't get common sense oil and gas cleanup reform this year, and we're gonna try again. So that as we come back around to that in the second half of this year, I hope that we can work closely with workers in the oil and gas industry to talk about bonding reform and cleanup, and possibly setbacks. We'll see. We want to do it. We'll see what we can get the legislature to do. That's all for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Anna Linden. Appreciate that update. And as we do that planning and scheduling for the advisory counts, wait a minute. Yes, for the advisory council, we are looking forward to being able to build a schedule of events that can go out to both bodies and the public so that folks will have the opportunity to plan in advance and engage with these groups in a way that really gives people space and time to plan. So with that, Deputy Secretary Linneman, would you be willing to give some updates for environment?
Yeah, happy to. So we were very well, we had a couple of wins, which I'll talk about first, and then I'll talk about some things that did not go the way we wanted. We were able to pass this year clean fuel standard. It's something that our department has been working on for I think this was the 4th year that we had introduced it. We had some great support from environmental organizations, including NRDC and Sierra Club. We also had some great support from Exxon and Chevron. So it was kind of like nice to see everyone coming together. Our initial economic estimates put it at like hopefully $470 million worth of investments in clean fuels coming into the state. So that's a combination of things like biofuels manufacturing, but also investment in electric vehicle charging infrastructure. Our next steps, we need to stand up an advisory committee, which will help with development of rules. Those rules will then go to the Environmental Improvement Board for promulgation or approval and promulgation. And then our goal is to have those rules to the EIB by fall. We're really excited. We've been working on this for a long time. We've got a lot of interest in participating in the advisory board. So we don't want to waste any time getting started. So that's one piece. And then we've obviously been very focused on transportation decarbonization the last year. We were able to pass Advanced Clean Cars 2 rulemaking. That's the California standard that requires manufacturers to send an increasing percentage of electric vehicles and zero emission vehicles to the state starting in model year 27. We've also done this clean fuels, which we think is going to really incentivize the building out of that EV charging infrastructure. And to go along with ACC2 and clean fuels, I worked with Secretary Chardon Clark and the governor's office and Anna Linden and a lot of people to help build out a clean cars tax credit. The final version, I think, doesn't have a cap. Oh, I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's only can you slow down a little bit? Our interpreters are just having a hard time keeping up. Sorry about that.
I'm so sorry. It's my inner East Coast in combination with a lot of coffee, which is basically fueling my entire body. So I'm going to slow down. So we were able, as part of the tax package, to pass these clean cars tax credits. They include $2,500 for new EVs and $2,000 for used EVs. And then there's also a carve out for plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, as well as fuel cell vehicles when more of those become available. The tax credits are fully refundable and transferable. So that means if I am a low income person who doesn't necessarily have the tax liability for the full value of the tax credit, I can transfer it to the dealership and they can get the full value of the tax credit from Tax and Rev. That was a really important piece we heard from the dealerships, was just to simplify how people could have access to these tax credits. So the credits will step down year over year until they phase out in 2030. We're really looking forward to seeing how much people take advantage of them in the first couple of years. We also know that for manufacturers who are trying to comply with their Advanced Clean Cars 2 requirements, they can get early delivery credits. So we want to start taking delivery of a lot more electric vehicles now. That'll make it easier for the manufacturers to meet their requirements under ACC 2. And also for the dealerships who need to be selling these cars. Breezy, you have your hand up.
Oh, I don't have a question. I was gonna give the update for my department.
Okay, great, sorry. So that's our update on the clean vehicles tax credit. We also had a couple of other pieces of legislation that we worked on that I think we're hoping to talk more about in the interim. One of them was a piece of legislation that would make it easier for us to use our special revenue funds. We have like 187 funds, and each one of them has very specific requirements. It makes it really hard from an operational perspective. We also had introduced this idea of a strategic water supply and using advanced market commitments to take more advantage of our non-potable water supplies to reduce the pressure on potable water supplies in the state. I think our intention is to keep talking to stakeholders and building out what that program looks like in the interim and revisit it next year. I know likely a lot of folks on this call have some thoughts on it. And so looking forward to hearing from you all in the coming months. I think that's all I have. Any questions for me?
Thank you. All right, well, Breezy, would you like to give some updates for the public education department?
I can only give updates for my department, specifically the College and Career Readiness Bureau, which I think relates to the work that was initially showed to us in the document. So we have an appropriation of about $40 million to spend on career technical education this year. In addition, $5 million specifically for summer enrichment internship programs. And so last year we had over 2,000 students across the state in summer enrichment programs. What we did was we contracted with counties, including tribal counties, to get students into internship programs so that they can work during the summer. And, I know a lot of them provided for their families and, assisted with, some of the poverty and income guidelines that they're facing in those rural areas. In addition, it also gave those students in rural areas opportunities to work when there aren't any opportunities. Relating to WIOA, because we work with WIOA, we have a DWS representative liaison that works. We pay half her salary that also contributes to the WIOA program as well, but ours was specifically state funding that went specifically to those students, not only in the rural areas, but most of the recipients were rural students. So we're happy to we spent about 8 million last year. We asked for 13 million, but we only got 5 this year. But it's still, I'm always appreciative of, funding that we can do to help students. So that's where we're at.
Thank you, Breezy. Okay, do any of our other task force members have updates that they would like to share on behalf of their division? Secretary Doucette.
Yes, real quick, we asked for 2 million for EVs. It looks like we might get 4 million for EVs, and we're working on that a lot at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Cabinet Secretary. And Patricia. Trisha, did you want to add anything for higher education?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, and I use the Spanish pronunciation of my name. It's Patricia. We're really excited about HB 303. It's the first cash stipend pilot program for wage workers in a workforce development program in the whole country. And so this will be rolled out through our adult education program. Director Amber Gallup of that program worked really closely with SOMOS and with the sponsors of the bill. And so we are very excited about that. In addition, we got $2 million additional dollars for FY25, and it's a 3-year appropriation, so $6 million total for integrated education and training programs. Director Gallup will also be rolling that out in her field. And additionally, regarding to the memo we were looking at earlier, HED also received $20 million for workforce training that includes non-credit courses for FY25. And this is also part of that bill that this is a 3-year appropriation, so it'll total $60 million in the end. And just regarding the conversation around those non-credit courses, we're really excited that we'll have this funding in addition to the Opportunity Scholarship, because it's a both and kind of situation where we also utilize Opportunity Scholarship funding to help people get their CTE credentials in the 4-credit bearing courses. And so this really helps us cover those 2 areas. We're also going to be working with the higher ed institutions to add, some assessment to these, the 2-year non-credit courses, because part of the challenge we were having in terms of rolling out funding last year with a similar pot of funding is that we need to be able to measure the effectiveness of the programs. And currently that data isn't collected in the greater EDIR system, which is our higher ed data. And so just so you know, we're also doing the behind the scenes infrastructure work to make sure that we can track those new pots of funding. And that's our update. We feel like we have a lot of great work to do with the Sustainable Economic Task Force. And then also just in relation to environment is we met with Secretary Kenny earlier this week and leaders from higher ed institutions to talk about the strategic water supply initiatives. It didn't get funded this year, but in terms of how we think about how we can work through the interim create different kinds of opportunities moving, trying to, attain that funding in the future and include strategic water supply as something in higher ed that we can start base building in regards to building programs at the credit and non-credit level so that we can start building that workforce for New Mexico.
Thank you, Patricia. Let's see, Raquel, would you like to share for Department of Workforce Solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning. We had an eventful legislative session, but really excited to announce that the Workforce Training and Apprenticeship Bill passed, which creates an expendable trust with an initial appropriation of $30 million. We got our ETA money reauthorized, which allows us to continue our pre-apprenticeship and Be Pro Be Proud program for another 3 years. For those that haven't heard about our Be Pro Be Proud truck, it's a large semi-truck which has 12 virtual reality stations, including semi-trucks, like a tractor trailer, welding, carpentry, plumbing, all of the trades. So it introduces students from high school, colleges to the trades. We currently have it booked through August. So if you haven't seen it, either at the legislature or at a local high school, you probably will. We're really excited. We've heard great success stories already, resulting in enrollments in our apprenticeship program. So we're really excited about that. And with our ETA money being reauthorized, I did get an update. DWS has issued over $11 million to 566 displaced workers. And that's through phase 1 and phase 2 of ETA of our workers in the Farmington area. For phase 2, we have received 55 applications and are pending over $1 million in pending disbursements. And we're working on enrollments to our training and apprenticeship programs that are part of phase 2. for this next semester. So a lot of good things coming to those displaced workers up north. Thank you.
Thank you, Raquel. Okay, if anyone else has updates, I'll mention real quickly since it's come up. Our agency's ETA funding has not received an extension, so we will have announcements about that rather soon, but nothing that I can share at this point. So for those of you who are interested in that, if you're on our mailing list or you want to reach out to me individually, if you can keep an eye out on the EDD updates page, we will have announcements on that relatively soon. Would anyone else like to share on behalf of their agency in regards to the legislative session? And if there is no one else raising hands, I will entertain Chair Poviwa.
Thank you, Chair Harvey. Excuse me. I just wanted to thank the various leaders and staff of state agencies on the task force for all of your hard work, and also recognize the synergy and support given from various advocacy organizations, many of whom sit on SEEK. And just, we didn't get everything we wanted in the session, but pretty good for a 30-day. And I think that a lot of these policies really do represent what we're charged with doing, which is developing a sustainable economy for the state, whether it's through training or attracting federal dollars to support things like EV infrastructure or more clean cars. So just a lot of gratitude to you all.
Thank you, James. Okay, and with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Oh, Chair Harvey, are we in public comment?
Yes, we've been in public comment.
I see. Well, maybe just a question for those attending, if there are any folks from the public.
Yeah, seeing
Um,
none, folks are more than welcome to raise their hand. We have had this section open. If there's any other updates, we're more than happy to hear from the public, from the community. And if not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I move to adjourn, James.
Thank you, James. Is there a second?
Robert Doucette, seconds.
Thank you. And with that, if all those in favor, please raise your hand or your virtual hand or say aye.
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 Thank you. I will adjourn this meeting at 10:11 on Wednesday, February 21st. Thank you all, and we'll have the recording up shortly, etc. And then please keep an eye on your email for any updates that may be coming out for the advisory council. We'll make sure that you all are included in those as well once we finalize the schedule. Thank you all so much and have a good Wednesday.